All right, you guys, starting out with our breakfast meals, the first one that we have is this sweet potato and Greek egg scramble. This is a really simple and easy recipe, so what you're going to need is eggs, spinach, grape tomatoes, feta cheese, and I completely forgot to add the sweet potato puffs, but I use the Alexia sweet potato puffs. Go ahead and toss 2 servings of those sweet potato puffs onto your pan. This is going to make 2 containers. If you want to double it, then feel free. And then I'm going to go ahead and toss those into my toaster oven, add some olive oil to a pan, and put your grape tomatoes on. This is how I like to cook up my grape tomatoes. If you want to, you can cut them. I just think it's a pain in the butt, so I like to mush them up in the pan. Once those tomatoes are nice and cooked, I'm going to go ahead and add my eggs. I am adding 6 eggs, so 3 eggs per container. Then, of course, I'm going to season them up with some salt and pepper and toss them around. After your eggs are nice and cooked and starting to look like this, you toss in your spinach. I'm using 2 cups of spinach. Let that wilt until it looks like this. Then you're ready to add it to your meal prep containers. So I'm adding 1 serving of those sweet potato puffs to the bottom, and I like to mush them at the bottom just so that they're easier to kind of toss around when you fill it up. Then adding your egg mixture over the top, and after you do that, you're going to add your feta cheese, and I used 1 ounce of feta cheese for each container. There you have it, your finished sweet potato and Greek egg scramble. Moving on to our next meal prep breakfast, we have these cinnamon roll protein overnight oats. What you're going to need for this recipe is rolled oats, Jordan skinny syrup, and iced cinnamon roll, protein powder, plain Greek yogurt, raspberries, vanilla oat milk, chia seeds, and cinnamon. I use mason jars for this recipe, but you can use whatever kind of container you prefer. I'm adding half a cup of oats to each of the mason jars, a 1/4 cup of plain Greek yogurt, 2 tablespoons of your favorite protein powder. I prefer vanilla, but I think cinnamon would be really good in this recipe too. So whichever one you like. And then I'm adding 1 tablespoon of the Jordan's skinny syrup and iced cinnamon roll to each container. Adding a dash of cinnamon. I don't really measure this out, just kind of whatever your heart desires. Then adding 1 teaspoon of chia seeds to each container and a 1/4 cup of vanilla oat milk. You guys can use oat milk, you can use vanilla almond milk, or if you'd prefer, you can even use regular milk. It's really up to you, and then you're gonna stir each container together. Then you're gonna add your raspberries to each mason jar. I think I added about 8 to each one, and put the lids on, and you are all set. Now moving on to the lunch recipes. Our first one is this honey garlic shrimp and rice. This one I think is my favorite meal prep recipe out of this whole video. What you're gonna need is some long grain rice, shrimp, honey, olive oil, liquid aminos, red pepper flakes, rice vinegar, garlic, Brussels sprouts, and some good old salt and pepper. First things first, you are going to want to cook up your rice. So I am adding 2 cups of rice to my rice cooker. That's going to make 4 cups of rice because our other lunch recipe is going to need rice as well. And I'm using 1 cup for each recipe. And then while your rice is cooking, you can go ahead and work on your Brussels sprouts. You of course don't need to make Brussels sprouts, but Brussels sprouts are probably my favorite vegetable, so that's just what I'm going to be using. And this is how I like to cook them. So first I like to put them in a pan with olive oil and let them fry the bottom a little bit so the bottom is nice and brown and crispy. And then I'm going to go ahead and add some water and put the top over it and let it steam. And once your Brussels sprouts are nice and soft, then I'm going to add some salt, garlic salt, lots of pepper, and some cayenne. If you don't like spice, then you can totally leave out the cayenne pepper, but that's probably my favorite part. Once your Brussels are all nice and cooked up, you can go ahead and add those to your container with 1 cup of rice, and we are going to work on our shrimp. So add some olive oil to a pan. That is really satisfying, so I had to leave it in. I am using 12 ounces of shrimp, so 6 ounces for each container. And then once it is nice and cooked, I'm adding half a teaspoon of honey, some red pepper flakes, half a teaspoon of rice vinegar. Mix that up. Then you're going to add 1 tablespoon of liquid aminos. You can totally use soy sauce if you wanted to, but I just prefer liquid aminos because it's a healthier alternative to soy sauce. I think I used about 2 cloves of garlic, and then you're going to go ahead and add the 6 ounces of shrimp to each of your containers, and you are all set. Next recipe is Mongolian garlic chicken and rice. This one's probably the simplest out of all of them. So for your ingredients, you're going to need long grain rice, frozen mixed veggies, chicken, and the Good and Gather Mongolian garlic sauce. For this meal prep, I'm using 8 ounces of chicken, so 4 ounces for each container. Go ahead and cut that into cubes and then toss it into a pan with some olive oil, add some salt and pepper, and go ahead and stir it around until it's nice and cooked through. Once it's cooked through, you're going to add your 2 cups of white rice and then your frozen mixed vegetables. I use the whole entire frozen bag of veggies. And then once that's all mixed together and your veggies are not frozen anymore, you can go ahead and add them to your meal prep containers. I promise that my meal prep containers were not gross and dirty. I just had the rice in them, so that's why they looked a little bit dirty. But once you have split that into 2 even containers, go ahead and take a 1/4 cup of your Mongolian garlic sauce and add that to each container, and then you are all set with this meal prep. Okay, we have made it to our last 2 dinner recipes. So the first one is going to be healthy beef stroganoff. So for your ingredients, you are going to need some pasta. I use the Banza pasta. You can use whatever kind you want. Greek yogurt, mushrooms, lean ground beef, Worcestershire sauce, thyme, butter, and garlic. Go ahead and throw some water on the stove, add a little bit of salt to it so that your pasta doesn't stick together, and allow that to boil. So while you're waiting for that, we're going to work on the mushrooms. Add 1/2 tablespoon of butter to a pan, let that melt, and then go ahead and toss in your mushrooms. This container was 8 ounces, so I used half of it, so 4 ounces of mushrooms. Then I used half of the lean ground beef. Once your mushrooms have cooked through and your beef is nice and brown and it looks like this, you're going to add 1 tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce and then 1/2 tablespoon of flour. This is just going to go ahead and thicken it up in the slightest bit. Once your water is boiling, then you can go ahead and add your full box of Banza pasta. Since there are 4 servings in each box, you're going to add the whole thing because our other dinner recipe calls for pasta as well. So if you're just making this one, then go ahead and add half the box. Then I'm adding 1/2 cup of plain Greek yogurt and 2 big cloves of garlic. Mix that up. Once that's mixed, you can add your 2 servings of pasta and then mix again. Add it to your meal prep containers, and this recipe is all done. And last but certainly not least is this Buffalo Ranch chicken pasta. This one comes in a very, very close second to the shrimp. I eat this recipe at least once a week. But for your ingredients, you are going to need some Banza pasta, plain Greek yogurt, chicken, hot sauce, a ranch packet, and fat-free shredded cheese. Again, with 8 ounces of chicken, you're going to go ahead and cut that up into the smallest little cubes that you possibly can. Throw that in a pan with some olive oil and allow that to cook. While that's cooking, add your 2 servings of pasta, 1/2 cup of fat-free shredded cheese, 1/2 cup of plain Greek yogurt. For the ranch seasoning, I kind of eyeball it. I think I used about half the packet and then a 1/3 cup of hot sauce. If you guys don't like it as spicy, then you can cut down on the hot sauce a little bit, but I like to have a little bit of a kick. Add your chicken and then give it a good stir. I did also forget to mention what vegetable I'm using with this, so I decided to go with broccoli, and I just bought one of the organic freezer bags from Target. I threw that in the microwave, and then I'm gonna go ahead and add that to the meal prep containers. And this recipe is all set to go. I highly recommend you guys try this one. Alright you guys, these are your finished meal prep meals for the week. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please be sure to give it a big thumbs up. It really helps out my channel. And also leave me a comment down below to let me know if you are going to try out any of these recipes and any recipes that you guys want me to do in the future. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, then be sure to hit that subscribe button down below and join the family. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys!